Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the big 3.0, the tree topper mock draft here. So this is where everything comes to an end. 4 rounds, so stay tuned for that. This should be fun, hopefully, and I hope you like what happened. At the bottom down there, you'll see an empty area of the screen. As I come to the conclusion of any individual team's draft, I will then put the final total haul for that team up on the screen, do a little bit of brief talking about it, and conclude it there. So this won't be a very short video, it will be kind of lengthy, but I do want to keep it somewhat succinct, so I'm not going to go off on huge tangents about selections. In fact, we're going to scoot through the first 2 rounds quite quickly, and for the first round, you can go up on my website. There will be a link down in the description. So if you go up onto the website, www.theffforge.com, and you click on the articles section, I don't have it up here, but you can see my 1.0, my 2.0 are already up there. We're going to go 4 rounds with trades 3.0. That'll be right at the top of this list. You can click there, and for each of the first rounds, just like I did for these first 2 rounds. By the way, this looks a lot better on desktop. It's a little crowded on cell phone, and if you do it on a cell phone, just turn the cell phone sideways, and then it's a lot easier also. But anyways, you can see went through little descriptions for each of the first round picks. So if you want to hear some of my thoughts about why I did the picks that I did in the first round, there you can find it. Also, I did videos of each position group with my rankings. Rankings have changed somewhat since, depending on the position for some of those guys in some of those videos. I do have links down to each of those individual videos also down in the description if you would like to check those out before we get into the draft. And I honestly don't remember if I said this yet or not. So you can come visit me live for the draft on Thursday, on Friday, and maybe on Saturday, but definitely come check me out here live on YouTube. I'd be happy to see you then. And let's get on to just running through the first round, second round. Once again, you can see the descriptions for the first round. So this is what I ended up with. And by the way, this is semi-predictive. It's not 100% predictive. So Caleb Williams at number 1, Jaden Daniels at number 2. But for all intents and purposes, this is my predictive mock draft. Drake May at pick 3, Marvin Harrison going to Arizona Cardinals, JJ McCarthy to Minnesota, moving up for that. Roma Dunze, Joe Alt to Tennessee, Dallas Turner to the Falcons, Quinyon Mitchell to Jacksonville. I think it makes a lot of sense for Jacksonville to be looking to move up if possible, and I think there will be a couple teams that they might be able to move up for. Maybe Indianapolis cuts them off in the actual draft, realizing this, and gets up here ahead of them to a team that doesn't want to fall back quite as far. So Jacksonville does move up in this scenario. Malik Neighbors to the Jets. Brock Bowers to the Los Angeles Chargers. That they move back in. Bo Nix at 12 to the Broncos. Not messing around with that. Then Taliesa Fuanga to the Raiders. Makes a lot of sense. Olu Fashanu to New Orleans. Troy Fontenot to San Francisco here at pick 15. So that's a bold prediction of mine. Laiatu Latu going to Seattle at 16. Amarius Mims going to 17. Pittsburgh, if you're not aware, is picks at pick 20. And that means that the Chicago Bears actually move back twice here in the first round, picking up some capital. J.C. Latham went to the Bengals here. Jared Verse to the Los Angeles Rams. Byron Murphy to the Chicago Bears at pick 20. Graham Barton to Miami at pick 21. Terrion Arnold makes a lot of sense to me for Philadelphia, and if they want to improve their cornerback room, I think there's no better time to do it than in the first round. Jerzon Newton into the Los Angeles Chargers with that other pick at 23. Cooper DeJean to the Dallas Cowboys. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Nate Wiggins going to Indianapolis at 26. Remember, they fell quite a bit back. And I think if you get Nate Wiggins at 26 after falling out from 15, picking up the capital that they do, it's a hot start to this draft. They're one of the drafts that I definitely like here. Chop Robinson to Chicago, coming back up into the first round for the 3rd time here, Chicago, after picking up some capital from moving back. So Chop Rob to Chicago at pick 27. Xavier Worthy to Buffalo. I'll recap some of these drafts at the end, so I'll give you some of the reasonings behind that when I talk about their final draft haul. Jackson Powers Johnson to Detroit. Brian Thomas Jr. to Baltimore. Adonai Mitchell to Carolina. And Ladd McConkey to finish this up to Kansas City. So Carolina moving up ahead of KC for Adonai there. That brings us to the second round. Michael Penix to Las Vegas, moving up to guarantee that they do get another quarterback in their competition room there. Then Braden Fisk going to Houston, so have them moving up here to grab Braden Fisk at pick 34. Jordan Morgan to Arizona at pick 35. I think that they moved out of this pick 27, so that works nicely. Jordan Morgan, guard, tackle kind of prospect. Ennis Rackstraw to Washington. Peyton Wilson to Green Bay at pick 37. Zach Frazier to Carolina. I think that's a nice fit. Adrian Cooper to Tampa Bay. Keon Coleman to Washington. And to be deployed like Rashee Rice. We'll get to that a little bit later. Mike Sanistrell to the Chargers, I assume, moving up here a little ways, probably for Sanistrell, getting one of their Michigan guys there for Harbaugh. And back-to-back Michigan guys, Roman Wilson, then going to New England, who I think fits what they need nicely. Max Melton going to Atlanta. There's a story with this pick. Then Tyler Nubin going to Tennessee. I think there are a few specific safeties that Tennessee's really got an eye on, Tyler Nubin being the top of that list. So they grab him here with him still being available. Tyler Guyton going to New Orleans, and that's going to bring the end of New Orleans draft. So we can bring this graphic up onto the screen. New Orleans goes left tackle with Olu Fashanu, and with Ryan Ramczak's knee concerns, issues, we're going to grab Tyler Guyton at right tackle. Hopefully Ramczak can still play partially this year to some extent, whatever, because Tyler Guyton's, I don't think, going to be really too ready to play. And you definitely don't want two tackles manning your outsides, but it's special circumstances here for New Orleans. Tyler Guyton, hopefully by week 8 or something, will be ready to go. But to start the season, I think he's a little bit raw. Regardless, New Orleans getting two really good pass blocking tackles to man their edges there on the offensive side of the ball. Then we go Troy Franklin to Indianapolis, Ricky Pearsall to Pittsburgh, which I think is a really popular pick actually for them. Jonathan Brooks goes to Arizona. Chris Jenkins goes to the Bengals. Christian Haynes to Philadelphia, like that fit. Kamari Lassiter to New York Giants. This is what I think is a fit, and Kamari Lassiter look more like as a slot corner than a perimeter corner, so there's still room there for more cornerbacks in Giantsville. Darius Robinson at pick 52, so I think Detroit moving up for that one. Malachi Corley at pick 53. This is something that I have been trying to make happen. Never quite has happened, I don't think, in any of my mocks where I've gone past the first round. I think that Malachi Corley is perfect for so many reasons for the Eagles, and I think probably will be a target of theirs. And I want to see how that comes together, so I'm really rooting for that to actually happen in the real world. And then Cleveland gets on the board for the first time with Patrick Paul, tackle. Given the right tackle that they've drafted last year, DeJuan Jones, loved him, absolutely. They probably have the biggest dudes manning their tackles along in the entire league once both of them are out there and starting. So very fun. Gives them a large pocket because of the reach of both of them. They got long arms in each instance. Then TJ Tampa going to Miami to finish up their draft, unfortunately, for days 1 and 2. So Graham Barton, incredibly versatile offensive lineman, exactly what they need, especially given the fact that they don't have a whole heck of a lot of capital early on in this draft. They're in at the end of, I don't know, whatever. They got to reset this window of theirs, but they kind of went all in last year, and what Graham Barton's going to do is just be flexible to help wherever needed. I think he's an excellent fit for Miami for so many reasons. TJ Tampa to Miami. It's one of the needs. It made sense given the board for them at pick 55. And there's TJ Tampa doesn't get talked about, and I think when he does, he kind of gets poo-pooed on. But there's a lot to like about TJ Tampa. I think he'll probably be pretty darn solid at the next level, and he does have higher upside, ceiling upside, and I think a fairly decent floor. Then at pick 56, we see Xavier Legette going to Dallas. Tell me that does not feel like a Dallas pick. And then Marshawn Nealon going to Tampa Bay. Javon Bullard going to the Green Bay Packers. Javon Bullard's a guy who just heard recently absolutely nailed it in terms of his interview process, So I know in one mock draft, I did have the Green Bay Packers trading up in order to get him, secure him. I believe maybe that's going to have to be a reality if he really did kill it with the interview process. Or maybe I've got him right about in the correct spot here for the Packers. Then Kingsley Suamataia going to New England. This is going to finish up their draft for the entirety of this thing, and we actually did quite a bit here in the first few rounds for them. First of all, attacked all three of their big needs: quarterback, wide receiver, tackle. This is a defensive coaching staff coming in, so it would be a little bit of a surprise to me if they do actually address all three of these needs initially, but also they kind of should. So we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But Drake May, Kingsley Suamataia, they work well together because both of them are going to need some time in the incubator before we fully trust them. At least, give them a few weeks at the very least this season. And Roman Wilson will be a great friend to Drake May. Along the way, we picked up some capital. We got a couple of extra 6th round picks already in this draft just by doing a couple of small trade backs. We also got a future 4th rounder for next year and a future 3rd rounder in 2026. So a little creative moving around in this draft for New England, and I was able to get them some future capital. So let me know, New England, how do you like that for your first 2 days and plus 1 round of the first 4 rounds of the draft? Does that work out for you? All right. Hopefully. Jatavion Sanders going to Carolina at pick 60. Junior Colson going to the Rams at pick 61. So he can at least still go to dinners with Jim Harbaugh. Dominic Pooney going to the Ravens at pick 62. Doesn't really get talked about so much for Dominic Pooney, but he is somebody who some believe is a 5-position player: tackle, guard, center. To me, typically when I hear that means most likely guard is where you're best at. And that's probably true for Dominic Pooney. But I think that he deserves a chance or deserves a future opportunity possibly at tackle. And that's exactly what the Ravens kind of need here, is that little bit of versatility. So nice start to the draft there for the Ravens, if you ask me. Jaden Hicks going to the Indianapolis Colts. And then Rook Hororo going to Kansas City with pick 64. And now we are going to start actually doing the mocks. So we've got Tampa Bay up on the board. And there's, some of the top players according to Sycama's board. We have a need across the offensive line that we are going to fill here with Cooper Beebe. They got Cody Mock last season, I believe, right? Like, between Cody Mock, Cooper Beebe, you got a pretty nasty, tough offensive line getting built here. Then Arizona is going to get a guy who I've called my guy throughout the entirety of this process, but over the past month or so, the steam has built so much on cornerback Andrew Phillips that now it seems like I'm low on him compared to some people. I still do consider him a my guy because I was like first to bat. It's kind of like Quinyon Mitchell. It's like, well, I was there earlier than you, so he is a my guy. So that's going to bring us on to the Washington Commanders, and we're going to see another my guy going here in Christian Jones, and I really like this fit for Washington as well, as they want to get a little bit mobile. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Might take a year to get there. But Washington, a young developing team. So we got time to develop. And that's going to bring Houston on. And we're going to see, you're going to see some picks from other mock drafts around, littered throughout these, especially these first 2 rounds, where I ended up loving something. And one thing that I ended up loving doing with Houston is getting them Trey Benson. I just think this is such the final coup de grace addition to this offense. Wouldn't mind helping that offensive line, but it's good enough. We'll get to helping to build up this defense a little bit better yet in this draft. There's a lot of good defense guys who are going to be able to be gotten in this draft mid-rounds because of how good this offensive draft is. So, Trey Benson, love it for Houston. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful fit, and makes for a nice matchup with Joe Mixon. And then, I like it a lot. Los Angeles Chargers up on the clock. Blake Corum. Trade alert. All right, so you may notice, to those who have a savvy eye, that in those first 2 rounds, San Francisco, making that big move up, has already dipped into some future capital, but they still have a lot of current capital. And San Francisco is in that Super Bowl window right now. So I have them trying to utilize some of their future capital in order to help the team now, improve now, get some of these big-time targets that they might have on their list. And, of course, taking a guess as to who that might be, who I think it might be. So here we go. San Francisco trading picks 94, 176, a future third round swap with the New York Giants getting their fourth rounder. So that's, pretty close. Maybe the Giants, maybe it's like Pittsburgh's fourth rounder instead or something like that. All for pick 70 here from San Francisco. So that trade will go through, and San Francisco is coming up here not for Adisa Isaac, but for Jonah Ellis. New defensive scheme. They're going to have a wide 9 alignment. Designated pass rusher is going to be a need, and you think that could be Nick Bosa, right? But Nick Bosa is really good at stopping the run. So I don't really want to take him out of that role. I want somebody else to be the designated pass rusher. So rotation. Sometimes Nick Bosa might be the designated pass rusher on plays, but we're going to bring in Jonah Ellis. Think that he's ready to help year one, at least, year one. Maybe not week one, year one. He's got the pass rush moves already built in. He's got the athleticism to be in that wide 9 alignment and help. In fact, that's kind of what you want to do with him. So this works absolutely wonderfully, I think, for what San Francisco wants to do. And they're not going to take any chances in my mock draft here, and they're going to reach up or come up for him. Trade alert, Buffalo Bills trying to get a little bit better, higher-end talent here, making a little jump up to get their guy. You can see they have plenty of capital in this draft to do something like this. So pick 77, 144 for 71, moving that 144 all the way back to 226. So big drop-off there. So that's appetizing for Arizona, who needs not only high-end talent, but also players so that they don't lose out on any of that. It works out for them. And Buffalo is coming up here to take none other than Devontae Walker. So I think with the guy we took in the first round, we now have enough short targets, whatever. That's what we want in this offense is yak kind of guys. But we do need somebody to take the lid off the defense in order to have them, respect our offense. We got Josh Allen with a big arm. I mean, we got to have some element of deep passing in here. So Devontae Walker, we know, can beat people. I don't think the drop issues are as concerning as what they were throughout the entirety of the process. Not the best hands in the world either, though. So that's part of why we're able to get him in the third round. But we make that little bit move up for a guy who can separate deep and will force defenses to respect this offense and not move up too much on them. So that's going to bring the New York Jets up onto the clock, and we're going to take, so this is one of those consensus kinds of picks, and also I think that the New York Jets could really, really like Cole Bishop for their system. So the combination here, I'm not this high up on Cole Bishop, but New York Jets are going to take Cole Bishop. Could be a great fit for a big-time need for them. Los Angeles Rams here at pick 73. We're going to see back-to-back safeties taken off of the board. So the Rams always know how to utilize guys and their talents, and Kalen Bullock is a guy who you can't just drop in any team, any system. I don't know for sure if the Rams will want Kalen Bullock or not, but I do think that there's a definite opportunity that they might think that they can do a lot of great things with him at the back end of their defense when they go, like in their cover 3 type opportunities, and if they want to implement some cover 1, 2, that's where you're going to want Kalen Bullock. So it's going to bring the Atlanta Falcons on the clock, and trade alert. Cleveland, not in the best position to make trades, is going to have to probably pay a little bit for this move up, but with the target acquired on the board that they do not want to miss out on, they are going to do a swapperoo here with their future third for a future fourth with Atlanta to move up 9 spots. And they've come up here to get what should be a great fit for their system in Chris Broswell, edge rusher. So, as long as they like him, if he's still available at this point in the draft, I could see him trying to make a little bit of a move up like that for him. That's going to bring the Bears onto the clock. They probably would have been happy to move back here again, but also we're just going to secure our guy at a position of big-time need in Cedric Van Pram. This is probably a little bit of a reach, but you can't find a trade partner to trade back, or if you're afraid of somebody else taking them, then you just go ahead and do it. So I think Chicago can be happy to have gotten their center. Denver Broncos come up onto the clock next, and they're going to take edge rusher Braylon Trice here, and then Arizona at pick 77 is going to get a guy who some people have mocking much, much higher. I think there's been somewhere that he could go in the first round. I don't really see that given the tackle talent in this draft and everything at the end of the... I don't see it. but he is a guy who borderline my guy, caught my eye early enough on in the process and everything as well. He's got some great traits, and I think that can go a long ways. Arizona, very, very happy to scoop him up here at pick 77. And another guy who, I can't take credit for him being a my guy because he got totally brought to my attention from Brett Coleman. He's a Brett Coleman my guy. So Washington going to get edge rusher Muhammad Kamara here at pick 78. Love that. Absolutely love that. So we'll see in the real draft if Mo goes this early. He does have issues with length and I think height that could severely limit him at the next level. But you watch the tape, you look at the other traits that he has, and he also could be quite successful despite those limitations. So that's what we're betting on here with the Washington Commanders. I'm going to have to remember to do a little bit of shuffling here. There were some changes in my draft that I did not end up changing here. So Falcons at pick 79 are actually going to take wide receiver Jalen Polk here, which works well. So this would be considered a fall by many. I'm not as high up on Jalen Polk, but what this gives Atlanta is that third down and 5-6 guy that Kirk Cousins can trust. Just throw the ball to. He's going to make the catch. Think of third and Jawan Jennings in San Francisco. That's what I like to think of Jalen Polk. Just a very tough catcher. That's who I think he is kind of a Jawan Jennings. I don't think he's a whole lot more than that. Some people think he is more than that. Either way, I think he's a guy that any team would like, and he's a guy that Arizona needs. Every team needs that guy that your quarterback can trust on third down to complete the reception. So that's what's missing here in Atlanta, and we're going to get that here. A little added toughness to that offense I think could go a long ways. So I love the fit for Jalen Polk to Atlanta. That's going to bring us on to pick 80. Cincinnati Bengals need some help with the cornerback. I got some affirmation from a Bengals fan. I was not 100% sure if I was reading the room correctly or not on that, but I'm going to give them Kyrie Jackson. Really, really love. If I wanted to have more my guys, he was definitely on the list of potential my guy kind of material. So Kyrie Jackson, very not talked about, and I think maybe a little volatile on what people think of him, but I'm on the side of great athlete here, and I think he's a nice fit for the Bengals who like to be a little bit multiple. He can bring more of that multiplicity to this secondary, which has been a calling card for the Bengals. They've been able to match up against different types of offenses very well and scheme things up. That's going to bring Seattle onto the clock at pick 81. And Seattle's going to get another guy who we definitely think could go earlier than this. Some people think so. Another guy, very great traits, catches your eye. At the end of the day, Mason McCormick here to Seattle is a wonderful fit, and I think that you can be absolutely excited about that guard. Fits the needs there. It works well. Trade alert, and if you're paying attention, you might notice that this is a very familiar trade going in the other direction. So just 9 picks ago, we had Arizona and Buffalo trade, and if you were to rewind the clock here, we would see that Arizona and Buffalo just basically took their upcoming 4 picks, I think it is, and just switched them from teams, something like that. Just flopping spots, playing the board for each of them. And Arizona is going to come up in this situation because they would like one of the is this going to be the last remaining of the linebackers, the big 4 in Jeremiah Trotter. And that's going to bring the Los Angeles Rams up on the clock for their final selection. So let's get that down there. You can now see the final selection. It is going to be offensive tackle Kieran Amagaji. So their offensive line isn't in a dire circumstance. Kieran's going to be a guy who's going to be able to develop a little bit. He did have a major, and this is why I think he might fall in the draft, torn quadricep, was it? Injury? He tore a muscle in his leg. Fairly recently, big time injury that also concerns you for a guy who has a lot of upside though, and is still needs a little bit of development coming out of Yale and everything. Competition level a little bit different there, so there's some risk with it associated with it. But at pick 83, I think well worth it. So the Rams finish this draft up with I think a nice solid draft here. We're going to be helping our defense at each level with Jared Verse, Junior Colson, Kalen Bullock. Definitely, Junior Colson really hitting the line of scrimmage hard, and Kalen Bullock being, when things fail, that safety valve. One thing we did not address here would have been getting one of these quarterbacks off of the board, one of these earlier, quarterbacks. Let's go on to pick 84 with Pittsburgh, and they are going to grab a slot corner here, slot only, in Chris Abrams Drain. So they still need help out on the perimeter, but I think that there's a lot that they would like about Chris Abrams Drain in this system. So that is the route that I decided to go. And at pick 85, we're going to see the Falcons up on the clock next. And so this is where just a few picks ago, actually, this started, and I had to do some shuffling around. I had to do a 1.0 patch to my mock draft, because I obviously have to keep track of what these teams have drafted, and it's a very tedious process. It takes a while keeping track of it all, and it works much better than having to scroll up and down and try and find the picks, because then you can easily miss out on a team and what they might have drafted if you try and do that third, fourth round in. So I record them under each team. I did not record the Max Melton pick for them, cornerback. So actually at pick 79 originally, I had taken cornerback Renardo Green for them. Which actually I don't know about the fit there, so I think that was kind of a bad pick. So this works out much better. I moved up. I had Jalen Polk actually being taken at 85. I moved that up to 79, and then here I moved Dadrian Taylor Thomason, safety. They need some safety help. I think that they'll. This is going to be a coveted individual in the draft, more so than where a lot of us think that he might go. Not too badly ranked here in Trevor Sycamores board. So even me, I have him ranked a little bit lower, but he has some of those traits that you can't teach anybody, those leadership types of traits, those communication traits that teams are definitely going to be looking for. So Atlanta's going to pick up Dadrian Taylor Thompson. I think that's a wonderful pick. That also screws over what I had been a wonderful draft for Houston, but it doesn't affect anything yet, because trade alert. This is just kind of a monkey swapping around, feeling the board out for both of these teams, moving 123 up a little ways and just moving back 5 spots here, 6 picks for Houston. Well, 5, right? So we do that, and the Los Angeles Chargers come up here. They're going to take, and so now with Renardo Green being available, I actually changed out who that they decided to take with this pick. They came up for Renardo Green. Now, this is a guy who, at this point, I had been trying to find a home for since maybe mid-second round for about 30 picks or so. Every time a team might be looking at cornerback, I'm thinking about, is he a good fit for them? We finally find the fit. Renardo Green, kind of a tough-nosed, physical player, I think would fit the culture that Chargers are trying to create there. So this works out perfectly, and I think all the more reason that the Chargers would be moving up to get him at this point. Probably might see him as a value at this point in the draft. That's going to bring us on to pick 87 with the Dallas Cowboys, and this is going to be finishing up their draft, so let me just ruin the surprise right down at the bottom there with who they're going to take. That's right, we're going to take running back Jalen Wright. Really good quality running back here. The Green Bay Packers are up on the clock right after them. I wonder if they might have been interested in Jalen Wright, but I also think that they might be trying to move away from so much of a zone scheme in terms of the running game and getting more into a power run game. And Christian Mahogany is that guy in that guard. So a little bit different than the typical kind of offensive lineman that the Green Bay Packers would be going for. But I think that there's a decent chance that, especially given the board too, that they might say, hey, he fits what we want. That's going to bring us on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As you can see already, I've got a cornerback, Kalen Carson. I think fits what they want. They ran a lot of zone last year. I assume that maybe they still want to do that. Kalen Carson should be a great fit for a zone-heavy scheme. And the Buffalo Bills coming up here at pick 90, and we're going to have them take Cameron Kinchens, which at this point, I mean, it's one of those guys that I have a third-round grade on, and it's like because I have to kind of deal. I never get too excited with this pick. The athletic numbers just didn't come through like we were expecting for either of these Miami guys. Kind of strange, kind of weird. Going to trust the tape a little bit more and going to trust the 2022 tape too, and in the upside of a guy like Cam Kinchins, might have been pushing a little too much this year to try and get himself into the first round or something, and it backfired on him. So after talking with him, Buffalo's comfortable with it. We're going to take Cam Kinchins, who I think fits Buffalo for a lot of reasons very nicely. Then Houston's onto the clock here, finally at pick 91, and this would have been Dadrian Taylor Demerson, and this would have been in the realm of one of my favorite drafts of this entire thing, with Dadrian Taylor Demerson just being like I just loved the whole complete feel of their draft. But in this instance, with Dadrian now off of the board, they're going to address what's technically maybe a bigger need at cornerback with DJ James, who I think there's a lot of upside for. So that's going to give him some nice higher end athleticism at cornerback there for Houston. That's going to bring the Indianapolis Colts onto the board next, and they like their high RAS scores, athletic guys. Gabriel Murphy is one of them. They could use a little bit of, I think edge was maybe my like at the bottom of my chart for needs, but at this point he made a lot of sense for Indianapolis. Ravens are on the clock next, and they're going to get what some would, I'm sure, like everybody would say, oh, he's falling. So maybe he won't be available here for the Ravens at pick 93, but in my world, he is. And I do think that some of these edge rushers are going to fall in this draft, and some of them are going to go higher than we thought they were. So that's the reality. I don't think there's a whole lot of like high-end upside for Adisa Isaac is the issue. New York Giants up on the clock, and they are going to address the quarterback with Spencer Rattler. Going to bring Kansas City on the clock here. We're going to go with Blake Fisher, another guy who some might be thinking is falling at this point. Who knows? Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. If he's still available there, though, I think Kansas City would be ecstatic about that. That works out very nicely for them. Maybe even somebody that they would be trading up for if the first 2 rounds of this draft went as I had them. Jacksonville going to be taking a bit of... he is a my guy. The combine was a little disappointing, and he wasn't only my guy. A lot of people liked Austin Booker, and then the combine happened, and we're like, ugh. That was concerning because it didn't match what's on the field, and as a developmental guy with like the athleticism supposing to be part of what makes him great and what makes him such a great developmental prospect, the combine numbers weren't that great. But at this point, I think he's falling a little bit at the end of the 3rd round, and so I think this would be a really nice get for Jacksonville to add to that room with Austin Booker, something that I think they're going to want to do in this draft. Bengals, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to pick this one out. They might be, given their top 30 visits, they might be looking at like an Eric All, who I think they could get a little bit later than this. Some people think the opposite of that, but with the injury issues and everything, I just don't see it. Cade Stover very much fits what we think of when we think of the AFC North. So I love the fit. Like I was just getting to they might be looking for more of a aerial threat, a receiving threat. Not that Cade Stover isn't one, but he is a little bit more traditional. I like to think of him as a smaller Pat Freiermuth, to give you an idea. So fairly traditional, but with decent receiving upside is Cade Stover. They might be looking for more on the receiving than the blocking. In which case, maybe they don't take Cade Stover, is my point. But that's going to bring the Chicago Bears up next, and this is going to finish, I think, just a fantastic draft. You might be seeing where I'm going with this one already for Chicago. And so there is what it is. So let's just take Malik Washington here to the Chicago Bears. And so trading out of that number 9 spot, I think, ends up working very nicely here. We get Caleb Williams, of course, at pick 1. Fall back at pick 20, we get Byron Murphy, and then we move up a little ways and get edge Chop Robinson. The final 2 pieces to this front 7 that we've been building for the last several years that will make it all click is, of course, the hope there. And then we're going to get back to helping Caleb Williams here. We got Cedric Van Pran, and we got Malik Washington, who is my guy. He's, I think, he's a lot of people's my guy. A lot of people love Malik Washington. He's probably not going to be going in the 2nd round or anything because the league just gets concerned with smaller guys like Malik Washington. But I think he fits a lot of what they need there in Chicago. So I love the fit and I love the player. And I think that he could definitely give them more than a late 3rd round draft pick often will give you. So I think this works out nicely on both sides of the ball. That's going to bring us on to, I think, the Detroit Lions. This is going to be the Detroit Lions' final pick as well. And they're going to take the Notre Dame cornerback here in Cam Hart. Just a solid, big physical kind of guy, like 6'2". I think he's a nice fit for the Lions if they don't end up getting something prior to this point in the draft. So Detroit gets Jackson Powers Johnson at pick 29. Then they go Darius Robinson at pick 52. And then they must have accepted a trade at some point. All right, so what ended up happening is they picked at like pick 73 or 61 and 73, traded for 52, 99, and in that trade they ended up getting this 5th rounder as well, because that was a little bit of a bigger drop back, so that just helped to make things work. And I think at the end of the day that works out pretty nicely here. Especially Darius Robinson, I think, is an excellent fit. Same with Jackson Powers Johnson. I think culture-wise, I mean, all around there, I think they get some good guys. That's going to bring us on to the last pick of the 3rd round with the Washington Commanders, and we are going to go up, and we need some tight end help here in Washington. We're going to get Ben Sinnott, another guy who, like, I'd like to say he's my guy, and he kind of is. I love him, but I'm not the only one in the world or anything like that. So I'm one of the people that loves Ben Sinnott, and I think he'll help to add another element here to this Washington team. That's going to bring us on to the 4th round here, where the Las Vegas Raiders are up on the clock to start day 3, and they're going to take big old, I forgot the second A there, Mason Smith from LSU, a guy who's fell in this process last year. I think he was being thought of as a potential 1st rounder coming into this college football season. But things didn't work out like that. But Mason Smith going to Las Vegas, nice fit there in terms of the physicality of him, I believe. So, yeah, there we go. That's going to bring another guy who's fallen as of late, probably. His stock definitely fallen. In T'Vondre Sweat, another guy who at one point you thought might go in the 1st round. And if he was 20 pounds lighter, he probably would have been he's gonna go in the 1st round kind of guy, but the weight was just a little bit too much. I don't think you were gonna be able to get him for all 3 downs. So he was a 2nd, 3rd round guy, gets a DUI, and is now at risk to fall out of the first 2 days of the draft. Who knows how far he might fall, but he would be such a perfect fit for Seattle here that I've got them arguing themselves into taking the risk on T'Vondre Sweat, because it's just such a great value and fit that it's worth it, I think, at this point to take T'Vondre Sweat for Seattle. So, cool, lucky fit there, as long as everything turns out okay in the long run. Let's bring us on to pick 103 with the New England Patriots and trade alert. And this time we see Houston coming up to pick 103, offering pick 110, 189. Houston continues to be very aggressive. They came in with quite a bit of capital here, and I don't know if every pick they've moved into it, but they just continue to make moves in order to make things happen. And so Houston is going to end up taking Tyke Smith here. This could be early. This is one of my picks here, taking this for me. I love Tyke Smith, and I think pretty much everybody does when they watch him. Yet, it's just not a guy who gets talked about too much because of how far he is down on the draft board. I think more than any other else, one of the head coaches in the league who would really, really fall in love with Tyke Smith would be a D'Amico Ryans type. So Tyke Smith is going to be your big slot corner, nickelback, whatever you want to think of him, probably in this system. So, or box safety, depends exactly, and they can deploy him. He's got a little bit of flexibility between those kinds of roles. So, yeah, you're going to find you're going to love him. You're going to love him, Houston. So I hope you like him. And that's going to bring us on to pick 104 with Buffalo. And going to go down the board for another. This is probably my guy, Zach Sinter. I think he is being under ranked. And, just going to be a nice final pick here for Buffalo. Just looking at the board, a little offensive line help was kind of needed. Buffalo's attached. Well, this is their final pick. So let's just see how their draft ended up looking here. And so, we got a couple wide receivers. We don't need another one of those. Cam Kitchens, there's other needs. So this was just, I guess, what I felt was a BPA here for Zach Sinter and at guard to help that offensive line. So here's the thought. Xavier Worthy to Buffalo. My big concern with that is, does he get alligator arms in cold weather? Can he handle cold weather? Maybe he just knows he can't, and maybe Buffalo interviews him, and he's just off of their draft board because of that. But if he's not off their draft board, he absolutely fits what they want. End up going for like the biggest yak reach. This is another team who I think Malachi Corley would be a really great fit in too. But here, I think there's a decent chance Xavier Worthy does go in the first round. So in the predicted mock, kind of wanted that to happen as well. But once again, I also just went up for the best yak guy in out of the ones that seemed most likely to actually go in the first round. So Xavier Worthy ended up being it. And then I explained a little bit of the Devontae Walker thing here, given something vertical for defenses to be afraid of. So all in all, I think this is an exciting start to the Buffalo draft here. And, a little bit risky of a draft as well. You could walk away in 3 years and all of these guys could not live up to the expectation of the draft value, and you would... A, not be super surprised, but B, would be like, yeah, darn it, that sucks. That was a wasted draft. So a little bit of a risky draft here for Buffalo, but I like it also. So that's going to bring the Green Bay Packers up onto the board. And the Packers are going to take actually somebody who I'm not too high on, but I think is a wonderful, wonderful fit. And I know that they have done a top 30 visit with him in Jerrion Jones. And I've been asking for them to get a slot corner for years now. And it seems like, and safety too, and it seems like they're finally listening to the positions that I've been asked them to draft for a few years. So there we go. Jerrion Jones to the Green Bay Packers. That's going to bring us on to pick 106. This is going to be the final pick for the Tennessee Titans. And right here at the top of Sigma's board, been waiting for a while according to Sigma's ranking, is Brandon Dorlus, a guy who you watch the tape on, you like a lot. You try to project him to the NFL, and it gets a little bit funky. But also, we're at a time period in the NFL where, the multiples, the defenses, the tweeners are more so being considered as guys who have flexibility and are versatile. And that's where Brandon Dorlus might fit into this new age of the NFL where versatility is appreciated and less specialization isn't always necessary. So this fits the needs of Tennessee. Now, they have him as an interior defensive lineman on here. I have him as an interior defensive lineman on my board. That's how he tested at the combine, which is how I ended up deciding where the players go on my board. But a lot of people also think he's an edge instead. And I think the people who think that might not have realized that at his pro day, he did put on more weight after he took off a bunch of weight for the Senior Bowl. So, I don't know, I think he got feedback at the Senior Bowl that was like, hey, we wanted you more into that tweener stage or more so you could help out on the interior defense of the line from some teams maybe. And so he put some of that weight back on, is my guess, because usually you want to run faster and you're taking weight off when you go to the combine, but he put it on. So I think that was a request from teams, personally. But Brandon Dorlus, a cool, exciting player, going to help you get some pressure. So, how does that finish the draft here? Joe Alt, excellent. Tyler Nubin should be a good, solid safety at the next level here. And Brandon Dorlus, nice, exciting, versatile piece to add to that defense in position of need there. And on top of that, we were able to pick up an extra 5th-round draft grade pick for this draft and a future 4th, which is pretty solid there. So, decent draft for a limited amount of capital. We did what we could do, and we actually got a little extra capital along the way. So I like that. Going to bring the New York Giants up onto the clock, and this is also their final pick. And who are we taking? Looks like Josh Newton, TCU cornerback, who more so than like Kyrie Jackson, who I talked about earlier, seems to really be people either like him a lot or don't like him a lot, and general consensus seems to push him a little bit further back on the big board. But still had a position of need on the perimeter for a cornerback. Josh Newton's going to be your perimeter cornerback here for the New York Giants, and I think he's a system fit for what they're looking for. So we're going to pair that with Kamari Lasser, once again going down in the slot. We got Spencer Rattler to compete at quarterback for now and into the future. Hopefully is the goal, and Rome Odunze to help Spencer Rattler or whoever our quarterback is this year and into the future as well. And we picked up a 5th-round pick and moved one of our future 4ths into a 3rd-round pick. So improved our draft capital along the way as well for the New York Giants, which is going to bring the Las Vegas Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings up onto the board. And here is a guy who many think probably should have been off the board here. I think some people would be happy to see him go in round 2. So Javon Baker, because of the wide receivers being so plentiful in this draft, just falls. He's a little bit lower. I like him a lot. I do. But it's a really good draft. He's just a little bit lower on my board than others. There were other special traits. It's kind of like the Jalen Polk thing. It's like, I get it. I like it a lot. I don't love it. And there's not this like one special trait that I'm hanging my hat on that I want to take a chance on, even in some situations like a Tez Walker, whereas the floor for Tez Walker is not as good as Javon Baker's floor. That's for sure. But the ceiling and what he can do for an offense and the explosiveness is something that you can't find every day, and I'll take a gamble on. That's kind of how it works out. So I think Javon Baker works nicely here for Minnesota to give another threat to a young quarterback for them. This is not the end of the draft, though, for them, though. So let's move on to pick 109 with the Falcons. It is going to be the end of their draft, and as you can see, they're taking somebody who you are either very familiar with and very excited about, and you wish you would have went to the Combine, or you have no clue who this is. So Christian Boyd, interior defensive lineman, going to the Atlanta Falcons to finish up their draft. They get Dallas Turner along the front 7 there, along with Christian Boyd, so that's exciting. Max Melton, absolute my guy in the 2nd round there, who I think will be great, and a nice fit for them. Jalen Polk, I love that for their offense, and Jadrian Taylor Demerson in the secondary, so helping out all this defense heavily, which, the offense is in pretty good shape. Makes a lot of sense. I like this draft quite a lot. I would like it even more if they would have gone Latu instead of Dallas Turner, but I do think at the end of the day, Dallas Turner is a better fit for their system, so weigh the odds. In addition to that, they were able to turn a future 4th into a 3rd round, so helped out their draft capital along the way. That's going to bring us on to the New England Patriots. That can't be right here at pick 110. Didn't we look at the end of their draft? Trade alert. We're going to see Cleveland Browns, actually, who are way back here, their next pick, 156. How is Cleveland going to make this happen? Well, let me tell you what. Cleveland is going to give them a future 4th and a 2026 3rd rounder, so a future 3rd as well. If we just had a 3rd here, it would have made this a lot easier. But this is going to be enough for the New England Patriots to move off of 110. They've still got quite a few picks in this draft. They are a young team who's still in development and everything. So that future 3rd is going to be the cap on the hat here to make it happen. Cleveland's able to find a way, whatever they end up being here, to come back up here, and they're going to get a guy who is slipping. Is he up here? No. I think Sigma's low on him. Yeah, Michael Hall Jr., by many people's accounts, might be slipping at this point. I think he's like 70-something on the big board. So Michael Hall Jr. is going to be the pick here for Cleveland. That's going to do a nice day of just kind of filling up some parts of this defense up front with Chris Broswell, Michael Hall Jr. By the way, Michael Hall Jr., another guy who's a bit of a versatile interior defensive lineman. And then Patrick Paul there to start this draft off. So, is it super exciting? No, but you only had a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. We got you a 4th round pick at the expense of next year's 4th and 2 years from now, 3rd round. So, that's not nothing, but for a team who's trying to really win now, we go and we get a guy at a position of need here, I think, who has fallen. That's going to bring the New York Jets up on the board next, and they're going to get a guy who's, same darn story here as Michael Hall Jr., essentially. Mekhi Wingo from LSU, I think he might be back-to-back with Michael Hall Jr. on the big board. Very close to that, bit of a tweener. Exciting guy who can get some pressure on the quarterback from the interior of your defensive line. I think the Jets would like that a lot. So that's going to bring up the last pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. Going to start off with Taliesa Fuanga to start the draft. Position of need, love it. Great fit. Michael Penix Jr., love it. They need help at quarterback, and I think that there's a pretty decent chance that Michael Penix Jr. will be the best of what they've got in due time. And interior defensive lineman Mason Smith. And then in the 4th round here as well, picking up linebacker Adefwan Olufashio. And I think that those two are going to add some much wanted Antonio Pierce mean and beefness to this front 7. Going to get a lot bigger with those two up front. Trade alert, trade alert. We're going to see the Denver Broncos offer picks 121 and 203 to move up to 113. And then that's also going to move Baltimore's 250 up to 203. So a big substantial jump there, despite it being, fairly late in the draft. 203 is still a 6th rounder. 250 is near the end of the draft. So that's how big of a jump that is. And that's going to get accepted, of course. And Denver is coming up here for, they're basically jumping Jacksonville, I think, at this point. A couple teams, maybe, for a guy who has fallen in some ways, Jermaine Burton, because of attitude concerns. Denver definitely needs some help at wide receiver. Pretty thin there. So that's going to give Bo Nix, hopefully, a weapon for as long as Jermaine might remain on the field here. So, yeah, they got Bo Nix. They got their quarterback. They got another wide receiver, and they were able to get a nice edge rusher in Braylon Trice, who I think is a fit for them. The upside isn't fantastic, but should be a solid guy there. Which brings us on to the Jacksonville Jaguars pick, and they're going to get the other Washington guy in Jalen McMillan, who I'm really low on compared to consensus, but yeah, it's that point of the draft where I guess the NFL is probably going to be seeing something, because I'm not seeing it as much in Jalen McMillan. But I think Jacksonville has actually been in talks with Jalen McMillan. They have contacted him, so they have shown interest in him. Just in case you're not familiar, Jalen McMillan, slot wide receiver, so he is going to fit, a lot of what they asked for Christian Kirk, but he could be a future, their slot guy of the future, and I think they can still get him onto the field, but they don't really have a need for a wide receiver 3 right now with the picking up of Gabe Davis. And it looks like we're seeing a bit of a run on wide receivers here, as the 3rd wide receiver is going to go off in a row here for Cincinnati. That's going to finish up their draft. So you can see down there, it is Brendan Rice. Had a lot of fun options there to choose from. I don't know who they're going to prefer. I don't recall anymore if they had a top 30 visit with Brendan Rice, if that's the reason that I went that route. They take guard, potentially in the early stages here, J.C. Latham, and he can always help out on tackle. Maybe week 8 or something, they might need help at tackle there. So whatever the case, offensive lineman here to start the draft, like that for them. Chris Jenkins, they need help stuffing the run. No DJ Reader anymore. Their defense sucked without DJ Reader against the run last year, like big time. So great help here with Chris Jenkins. Then Kyrie Jackson, they could use some cornerback help. We went over that one. I made that pick. We talked about Cade Stover, and Brendan Rice is, I just think, a solid 3rd, 4th wide receiver. I don't think he's incredibly boom or bust. I think he has a decent floor and a decent ceiling, and we'll see if he ends up making it in the league or not at the end of the day. But I like Brendan Rice more than I don't, and that's going to bring us on to Jacksonville's final pick of this draft. And who is it going to be? None other than, this is another guy who I've been trying, at this point, had been trying to get onto a team for a long time, and it just didn't end up working. So I think a good value here for Jacksonville to finish off this the first 4 rounds of the draft. Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell to start the draft. That does leave them without that 2nd round pick. That does suck, but I think personally, Quinyon Mitchell is going to be worth it. They were able to screw over the Indianapolis Colts as well with that by taking Quinyon. So I love it. I think that they'll love it. I think there's a decent chance that they're looking to do that. Austin Booker, Jalen McMillan, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. They're helping that secondary out, helping the edge rush. So they're going to get better defense. The thing is, on offense, I would like to help them out more there, but what can I do? They made their decisions. They've got their deck. They've got their hand. They know what they're going to do on offense for the most part. So it to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to invest too much early on offense when defense has those bigger holes that they didn't address in free agency. Trade alert. Trade alert. Once again, we see Houston being really, really active in this draft, moving a future 5th and pick 127 to get 117. Not a cheap trade. Indianapolis, in this case, we're going to say they say, we'll take Buffaloes. We actually think you're a better team than Buffalo. That might be the right decision, actually, surprisingly. Weird to say that. Houston's going to come up to take their final pick of the draft, and this is one of those like bolder predictions, okay? This is a guy who maybe you've heard of him. You might very well might not have. JAX Hunt, previous safety turned linebacker, is he's got all the tools, all the traits. Definitely going to need some development. Very raw yet, but very exciting. Kind of a my guy in this process. Trevor Sigma has him on the board, ranked 86th player, JAX Hunt. I think back of the third makes enough sense, but ultimately, with the amount of development yet to go for JAX Hunt, I'd much rather be taking him in the 4th round. But I think D'Amico Ryans, you get JAX Hunt under D'Amico Ryans, like absolutely deadly. I love it. And so this is where I really loved, instead of DJ James, you get Dadrian Taylor Demerson in here. And like the whole communication of this defense is all coming together at every level with Tyke Smith, Dadrian Taylor Demerson, JAX Hunt for probably maybe you can contribute later on in the season into the playoffs or something at best case. I assume. And then Braden Fisk, though, along the interior defensive line, like, I loved that for this defense. It's DJ James. Nothing against DJ James. The vision is just a little less fun to me in this case under D'Amico Ryans. But nonetheless, D'Amico Ryans gets a bunch of pieces here to help complete this defense, and he gives the offense a little treat with Trey Benson. I still like it quite a bit here for Houston. That's going to bring Seattle up at pick 118 for their final pick of the draft. There you go. It is quarterback Michael Pratt. So Seattle takes a stab. They've shown interest in taking a quarterback. I don't know if they're interested in Michael Pratt or not, though. So there we go. That's going to bring pick 119 Pittsburgh up onto the clock with, they're going to go, this is a my guy, my pick in Tyler Davis. A lot of people have him lower than I do, and I had to hold myself back from putting them even higher on my board, and I still have them pretty decently high. Maybe top 10, maybe. For interior defensive lineman, I like the tape on Tyler Davis a lot, and I think Pittsburgh will like him too, so I got to catch up here. So Seattle, you got Latu, wonderful fit. I think they'll love him if he's there at 16. Mason McCormick, also a great player, great fit. Tavondre, this is a great draft, and all the more reason to just take a quick pit stop to grab Michael Pratt and, maybe get yourself an upgrade at quarterback at some point in the future. Then Pittsburgh, that was their last pick with Tyler Davis, so they got Amarius Mims, great. Ricky Pearsall, great. Chris Abrams-Drain, great. Tyler Davis, in my opinion, great. And along the way, they turned a future next year 7th, into a future 6th. So improve their future capital a little bit as well. That's going to bring Philadelphia up on the clock at pick 120 for their final pick of the draft. And they're going to take offensive lineman Javon Foster of Missouri, somebody who you can see Trevor Sigma's board quite lower, but some people like him a lot. I think he's got some real good tools to work with. So he is your heir apparent, hopefully, maybe. Christian Haynes will be a wonderful at guard. He's never going to be able to help you out at tackle. But then Malachi Corley, absolutely love the fit here for Philadelphia. This is exactly what they need. And with Kellen Moore coming in and trying to implement a little bit more of the McVay, Shanahan offense, Malachi Corley can be your Deebo Samuel in that offense, right? So it makes a lot of sense for this offense. Christian Haynes, too, makes a lot of sense for that. Same with Javon Foster. They're all fits for what Kellen Moore wants to do. And we start that off also by improving our cornerback room. And you will see I have Terran Arnold listed as a defensive back because I do think that a team could easily just employ him as a slot corner, very much so, or use him as a piece that they move around. But for this, wherever they want to put him, I mean, they can put him, I think. The Ravens are up on the clock at pick 121. They're going to go Delmar Glaze. Definitely my guy. Look at where he is at on the Sigma board, way low. I have heard some love from him from maybe Nate Tice, possibly. Very much off the top of my head, I'm guessing that's who it was. I don't know why, but I guess he is a my guy because I really like him a lot. Trade alert. I made a major boo-boo here by having Washington come up for Marshawn Lloyd, not realizing, forgetting, whatever the case, that they had already gotten Austin Eckler in the draft, and they need that kind of running back in the running back room for the Cliff Kingsbury system. Had him coming up for Marshawn Lloyd, who was Cliff Kingsbury's running back, so that could still maybe be possible, but I doubt that they would be spending a bunch of capital to come up and get it as well. So the Washington draft has already ended, and if you recall, you might have seen that Chicago's draft, when it ended, had an extra player there, cornerback Nehemiah Pritchard, who is somebody that they have shown interest in and I think matches the system and should be going around that area of the draft, so it fit in very nicely. So a lot of players here: Jaden Daniels, Ennis Rackstraw, Keon Coleman. Hinted at it. We're going to implement Keon Coleman like Kansas City implemented Rashee Rice. I think that's where you're going to get the best out of Keon Coleman. That's what Los Angeles Chargers last year should have done with Quentin Jefferson. That's not the right name. Quentin Johnston? I'm not the one who stumbled on the comparison to Rashee Rice. So I'm not trying to take credit for that. What I will say, though, is I should have, because I saw the vision for Rashee Rice in the Kansas City offense correctly last year. B, I have a note in my notes about Keon Coleman that he's better with the ball in his hands than he is without the ball in terms of his agility, athleticism, etc. Like, he just moves better with the ball in his hands. That's something that you saw with Rashee Rice. That's something that you saw with Quentin Johnston, although he has catching issues. It's the same story here. I should have saw the comp. I didn't. But that's exactly what we're trying to do, and we need that in this offense, and we're actually doing it in several ways here. Although Ben Sinnott can attack deep, so that's a nice extra little benefit to Ben Sinnott. He has a really good doing the wheel routes and stuff out of the backfield. But Keon Coleman going to help us down the middle of the field. We're not going to be throwing there, not going to be a whole lot of targets for Keon Coleman, but he's going to keep the defenses honest in the opposite way that you usually do. Usually you have a deep threat to keep defenses honest. Well, Cliff Kingsbury wants a vertical offense, so you need some of those guys that can threaten underneath in order to keep the defense moved up in that case. So that's where Keon Coleman, Austin Eckler, and Ben Sinnott can help us, but Sinnott especially, and Keon Coleman. I mean, all of them also have the ability to go deep when needed. So I really like this draft for Washington. You got my guy in Christian Jones. You got a Brett Coleman guy in Mohamed Kamara. You have everybody's Ennis Rackstraw is a Connor Rogers my guy. Like just my guys all over the place here. You gotta like it. Let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers final pick of the draft. Yes, and we're gonna see Jim Harbaugh going for another one of his guys, and I guess you could say this is my guy because this is another Michigan tackle who I think is being underranked in Trente Jones. And I will say Matt Gonclave's Calves would have been, I think the guy who I have ranked higher than Trente Jones, who's very similar and would have fit this exact role for Michigan. But the connection between Jim Harbaugh and Trente Jones, I'm taking a guess that maybe he would love Trente as well and go for the familiar guy instead of Calves. So we get Brock Bowers, Jerzon Newton, Mike Sanistril, Blake Corum, Renardo Green, Trente Jones. I like this draft a lot, and then we moved up 30 spots in this draft from 755 to 725 as well. So a nice big jump up late, improving our capital a little bit. The concern for me is I'm not addressing the trenches enough here. 2 out of 6 players I have addressing the trenches. Doesn't feel quite like the Harbaugh vision to me. Bring us on to San Francisco, 124. They still have 2 more picks after this. They're going to take Dwayne Carter from Duke, interior defensive lineman, flexible guy. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to grab, and he's fallen at this point for sure. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to finish off their draft with Bo Limmer. And they got Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, Marshawn Nealand, edge. So you love that. Cooper BB, Kalen Carson, Bo Limmer. I like this a lot. Bo Limmer is the one that I'm a little bit concerned about. Oh, and they got a 5th round pick for this year as well added on top of that, so improved some of their draft capital along the way. So there you go. I like that, Tampa Bay. Let me know what you think, if you like that or not. That's going to bring the Green Bay Packers on the clock to finish everything up. And Ray Davis is somebody that they've shown interest in and matches this whole, we're going to be, it's just something that I think that since day one, drafting A.J. Dillon, LaFleur has always wanted to do. And you see his predecessors, most notably McVay, moving to more of this gap running offense. So Ray Davis is still available. I think fits what he wants. The only issue for me is now we've got A.J. Dillon, but I think he's on a 1-year contract. Ray Davis, who is what I think you wanted A.J. Dillon to be. Hopefully Ray Davis can be that. And so this is a bit of a pick for the future. And then you brought in Josh Jacobs as well. So you got a lot of power. Where's the change of pace back? And you're not going to want to carry 4 running backs on your roster each week. So that would be my concern. But they did spend a top 30 visit on Ray Davis. So and A.J. Dillon has shown that he can catch quite nicely. He's just not very, dynamic with the ball in his hands is the biggest issue. I suppose you could always cut, if things go well, you could always cut A.J. Dillon. But I don't think LaFleur would do that. That does finish the Packers draft, if I could ever find a way to do this. So there you go, Kool-Aid, Peyton, Javon Bullard. I very consistently have had those 3 go to the Packers as of late. Christian Mahogany, Ray Davis, Jerrion Jones, I think all make sense in a world. Is it this world? We shall see. That's going to bring the Indianapolis Colts up on the board to finish their draft. Let's get this one up quicker and look at that. We're going to finish this off with Jordan McGee. Don't worry, I checked RAS scores along the way. Everybody passes the threshold, I believe, here for RAS scores, or it's at least very close. Indianapolis, I think you should love this. You fall back, you get more capital, and you still get Nate Wiggins, you get Troy Franklin. Yeah, I'm not super stoked about that. Some people will be. Jaden Hicks, same deal. I'm not super stoked. Definitely some people are. Gabriel Murphy, same story. So these aren't like my guy until, but still guys that I think add to this offense and are good fits. Linebacker Jordan McGee, though, I absolutely love. He's, I believe, safety convert himself. Maybe getting that one wrong, maybe not. But I believe so. Really, really love the tape on Jordan McGee. Super, super duper. I'm not the only one that has him as a my guy, so it doesn't feel original to say it, but maybe this is the first time you've heard it. So check him out if you haven't checked him out. And then you got a future 5th, and you turned a future 4th into a future 2nd as well. So big time capital there. Let's move on to the next pick. The Carolina Panthers are going to finish their draft off, and look at this. We're going to go with, I went out of my way here for the Carolina Panthers, giving them a my guy in Kimani Vidal, my number 4 running back. I love him. I compare him to Maurice Jones-Drew. Is who I think he reminds me of. Every year I'm looking for my Maurice Jones-Drew comp, and I'll use him lightly as a comp for like the small, scrappy, good guy. This is the closest I've ever come. He's an incredibly good Maurice Jones-Drew type of player. Adonai Mitchell in the first round there, Zach Frazier, tight end, hitting spots of need here, helping out our offense is what we need to do. So that's what we did. I like that quite a bit. Let me know, Carolina, what do you think of this? I'm sure you think, well, we could have gotten Kimani Vidal in the 6th, 7th round. I'm not so sure about that, and I love him, and I think you need help in that running back room. And along the way here, we did pick up an extra 6th round pick and a future 4th, so that's pretty solid value. That's going to bring us on to the Minnesota Vikings to finish up their draft. It's going to be McKinley Jackson, another one of these guys who was higher on boards and has fallen, pre-college football season to post-college football season and post-combine. So McKinley Jackson was a guy who did not do great at the combine, concerning, but I think fits a little bit of what Minnesota would be looking for. You get your guy, J.J. McCarthy. I don't love trading up for him, but I think that it's a reality that might happen. So J.J. McCarthy there at number 5 to the Vikings. And then you got Javon Baker there to help him. I like J.J. McCarthy, by the way. I just don't know if I would want to trade 2 first-round picks for him. And I think there's a decent chance that he'll be there at pick 11 if I just sit there and stay. Well, that's the problem. Denver Broncos might hop me for him. So I don't know. I think the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix fits the system very, very well. And, it's like this glove fits me very, very well. This glove, however, over here, it's like it's custom fit. I don't know. The personality of J.J. McCarthy, I think, would be very, very enticing for what Sean Payton asks and wants of his players. He wants football players, and J.J. McCarthy is the most football player that they're ever footballed. So there is Minnesota's draft, future fourth into a third as well along the way. That's a solid draft. I like that, Minnesota. I'd rather have a pick 11 and a pick 23, even if that means getting Bo Nixon. But I just don't think that's what's going to happen on draft day. This is going to bring up the final pick for the Ravens. And can you guess who it is yet? He's up there. He's one of those guys. And it's going to be Braylon Allen. Okay, so I'm low on Braylon Allen. I passed over about 4 running backs or so that were still available to go for Braylon Allen here for the Ravens. But A, I know I'm low on him. I'm pretty sure he'll get taken earlier than I would take him. But B, could you imagine, like, if you were to do anything, you put Braylon Allen and you bring him into camp and you say, hey, follow, ask questions, learn from Derrick Henry. We want you to be Derrick Henry. You are not that right now, but you have all of the tools to be that. So do it. I support the Baltimore Ravens taking Braylon Allen full-pledged. I think that would be a great fit. And a great learning curve for Braylon Allen, who just needs to be more physical. But yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of tools to work with. So there you go. Brian Thomas Jr., Dominic Pooney, Adisa Isaac, Delmar Glaze, Braylon. So you're getting 2 my guy offensive linemen here. And Ryan Thomas Jr., not a my guy, but a lot of people love him. Think he could go top 15. Braylon Allen, not a my guy, but I do like him learning from, just went over that. And Adisa Isaac after he fell. So that's a solid draft there. And we moved pick 250 up to pick 203 there in the 6th round as well for Baltimore. So that works out nicely. That's going to bring us on to the Kansas City Chiefs' final pick of this draft. And they are going to take Kalen King. So what does their draft look like here? They got Ladd McConkey, they got Rook Oro, and Blake Fisher there. So addressed, I think, our 3 biggest needs right off the bat. And then helped our secondary out with Kalen King, who I think, I put D back here. I think he's probably more of the nickelback slot corner kind of guy is where you're going to end up having to put him just due to physical athletic limitations, but I think he fits a lot of what Kansas City is looking for and could be 70-80% of L'Jarius Sneed. You're getting him around the same round too. So if you get 70-80% of L'Jarius Sneed in 2-3 years time, he's still a pretty darn good player. All right, so I screwed up with these last 2 picks. So the San Francisco is going to take Matt Goncalves, tackle prospect, going to help learn in their system. And then Arizona is going to take Javon Solomon, and that is Arizona's final pick of this draft. So they've got MSJ, Jordan Morgan, and Roger Rosengarten to, both of them tackle guard kind of prospects. Best 5, we'll figure it out with them. Both of them, I think, have decent opportunities of working out at tackle, but not a guarantee. So hopefully between the 2 of them, we got 1 tackle and 1 guard. Then Jonathan Brooks, love it for them. Think it's necessary. Andrew Phillips, my guy. I like him a lot. Cornerback, hitting needs. They have a lot of needs, so it's hard to miss needs. And getting good players, I think, really throughout here. So I like this. What do you think, Arizona fan? You got Javon Solomon there at the end, too. If you're not familiar with him, don't judge it. I think he could be gone earlier in this draft than this. 5th round pick, and then a future 4th into a 2nd as well, and that future 2nd is specifically Carolina's future 2nd pick, so that's pretty enticing as well. And not bad all in all there is that Arizona. That's going to bring us on to the final pick for the New York Jets, who's going to be Elijah Jones, cornerback. Some people like him a lot, some people don't. Boston College, I believe there is a connection along the coaching staff here for Elijah Jones as well. I don't quite recall it off the top of my head, however. But you get Malik Neighbors there at pick 10. Would have liked to trade out of that, but if Malik Neighbors is there, Aaron Rodgers is saying you got to take him. And New York Jets are saying, okay. And I don't disagree with it. But Cole Bishop, Mekhi Wingo, Elijah Jones hitting some areas of need here on defense. I think this is very likely of how the draft could go if Malik Neighbors is still available there at pick 10. That's a big if, but that was my prediction, so we're going to go with it. And I love this final pick here for the San Francisco 49ers. Look at it. It's so 49ers. Jamari Thrash, very tough wide receiver kind of guy for them. Troy Fontenot, great fit. Matt Goncalves, not as good of a fit, but still an tackle guard kind of mix there for San Fran. Might be able to give them a little bit too of that gap blocking prowess if they're looking to add that into their defense, into their offensive lines. Whole mix there. But Jonah Ellis, Troy Fontenot are going to be the two guys who we're expecting to come in and really, really help whip this team. Whip some of the changes that we want to make into shape and keep things running smoothly. Then Dwayne Carter, nice versatile piece. Jamari Thrash, more so for the future. We did end up bringing Jawan Jennings back, but he's not going to be there forever, and he's kind of that type of dude, Jamari Thrash. But he does bring also a decent vertical threat to him as well. So who knows? There's a decent upside for Jamari Thrash. Some people absolutely love him. And I just think he's a great fit for San Francisco. That's going to conclude everything. Thank you so much. I'll try to make this shorter than the hour and 45 minutes it took to record. But as far as the recording time, I thought it'd be like 2.5 hours. So that's good. Peace out. Come visit me at the draft, on draft day here. You don't have to stay the whole time, but it'd be great to see you. And announcement to any new subscribers that happen to make it this far. Scratch it. Peace out.